Hi, I'm Megan,
Hi, I'm Rebecca.
and we're Sister Goals.
I think that even leads us into the segue to part 4, which is kind of the summarizing of what happened to everyone who's still in jail. They did it. When was the update, Megan?
I don't recall when.
I think Mom said around 90s.
90s, yeah.
Yeah, in the 90s, they did an additional insert kind of saying like where everyone was, how everyone's doing. Are people alive? Are they dead? There was a
Their prison transfers, or like which prisons they'd been held at for how long, or what reasons they had for changing sites.
or that they can't find people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, name changes, new areas that people are living, what their lives are like. So it's definitely, I think it's a really good nonfiction book. I think they do it well. I appreciated the update that they did that, because I think, being that I'm reading this later on, so I wasn't there at the first part, I think it really does kind of make you really invested in the people's stories. So it's kind of nice to hear what's going on and how did the families cope. What do you think of that part, Megan?
Yeah, I appreciated the follow-up, because it is interesting to see just so many of them. I don't want to give it away. I'm going to say I don't want to talk about what I was going to talk about, because I'm going to give it away. So it's interesting to see how people's lives turned out and what they were able to do or not do within the confines of the prison system. To think about decisions that you make as a young teenager, young 20s, late teens, like what a profound,
even young teens, Megan, young teens,
yeah,
some of them,
awful impact that will have not only on your victims' lives, their families' lives, but your own life, and like what that will mean. And so I thought that was a very poignant part of the last section of the book. You just really feel like how much their lives were defined by the terrible act that they committed. And so I think that was the part that really drew me out in the last section. So yeah.
how would you say that from what I was interpreting from the book and the writing about current history and celebrations of, it's been 25 years since the Tate murders, 10 years since the Tate murders, 35 years, Charles Manson specials. Why do you think it's so big to this day, or was so big before? Why do you think this murder stuck with people?
So Bugliosi goes into this a little bit at the end of the book, and he's got his interpretation as the prosecuting DA, what he thought the lasting impact has been, because there have been other mass murders, serial killers, but it's just so easily identifiable, like Manson and the family. I feel like if you say those two words, even if someone doesn't know exactly what it means, they've got this very vague idea that there was a murder spree that happened, and that they, like cult-ish type. Like I feel like most people could get that very baseline recognition just from the Manson family and knowing that, or the Manson murders. And I've thought about it, and I'm not really sure why it has had such a lasting impact and why people just know it so well. But I think that it's just so oddly bizarre, in that the bizarreness infiltrated like one man's bizarre thoughts and beliefs and take on the world and what should be done in the world, just spread like wildfire into like these family members that he had cultivated and created. And then just to see, I think people are just fascinated by the bizarre, and just the fact that typically maybe our go-to response is like, that's bizarre, like and I'm gonna move away from it. And then just how terrifying it is that these people didn't even recognize the bizarreness of it, but embraced it, fully wanted to live it and do it and be what it required of them. And so I think that has some lasting impact as the public. You're just like, whoa, like how did this happen? So what did you think, Becca?
I think when they were talking about it in the book, I think just like the constant coverage, like the anniversaries and things like that too. And I think it was a really horrific murder. And as we stated earlier on, the trial was very different than other trials. It was very much followed throughout the process. And now we have like this detailed novel about it. And then there's different specials later on where they follow on. So I think just the documenting of the lifestyle. I thought what was really interesting is they do talk about some of the women that partook and are still in jail. And one of the women, I believe it was Sadie, that said, it scares me. She's like, it scares me. She's like, I will get fan mail to this day because many of the women have searched and found faith elsewhere in their lives and have since come out saying they regret what they did. And so they're recounting, but she talks about how she's getting fan mail saying how amazing they were to do this, how right they were to go against the man, as they put it, and saying it was okay that they were doing this and how inspiring it was. And I think that was the scary part about it. Like people were
the process of them being idolized, like the idea
yes,
not only that someone could have different thoughts that go very much outside the norm of our society and what's acceptable, and then on top of that recruit followers, and then on top of that recruit people that idolize that to this day. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know if I would be curious to see if there have ever been studies done in sociology or in psychology, like what that mental process is that happen. I think that was fascinating to me on the other end, just wondering what is it that can, that group mentality that can take place. And this is a very extreme negative version of it, but obviously we have other positive versions of it in our society that are socially acceptable, that people get in a group think and then they can act those things out, but because it's considered beneficial to society, it's more well accepted, versus these ideas of such harm and putting such terrible pain on other people was accepted, and so and spread, and it's just fascinating in a scary way. So I think that's.
So would you say you recommend this book?
I would recommend it with the caveat that you have to be ready to dig. You have to be ready to be patient with yourself. If you are someone who is able to really pick up details and facts and they just stick with you, I'm just not one of those people. I'm a very big idea person. So, I love talking about the sociology of the, like I'm going to get into the big ideas, but I love that. But really digging into like all their names, the dates, the details of the murder. So like if you're drawn towards that stuff as a reader or a person, like this is the book for you. You are just going to like get buried in details, but like in a way that's good. Like you're just going to have the full story, the full picture, everything the prosecuting DA had. Like you're going to get it and see what it was that they were going after and with what. So yes, if that's your thing, like you would love.
Is it your thing?
For me, it's not, but I appreciate what he did as an author. The man was so intelligent. I can't imagine. You'll see Helter Skelter is the theory behind why the Manson family did what they did and why specifically Charles Manson began these murder sprees. And so I think, yes, it is not my forte to just read detailed nonfiction books, but I truly appreciate the power of what he went through and what he was able to accomplish writing this book. So yes, what about you, Becca?
I would give it a thumbs up. I liked it. I'm not usually a nonfiction reader. I would also put a caveat, like you have to be okay with reading gruesome
Yes.
details. If you are not into gruesome details, or because let's just say don't read it at nighttime,
Yes.
would be my one recommendation. Don't read it at nighttime. It makes it very challenging to sleep. So it's a real thing. So I read it at the daytime. But it was so good. I think it was just really well written. I liked this book. Now, it would definitely depend on the circumstance where I'd recommend this for people, but I do think it was a good nonfiction, and I'm not usually a nonfiction person. So to have it so well written and for me to be able to follow along, I really appreciated that from Bugliosi.
Yeah.
But as always, thank you everyone for joining us today. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Have a wonderful day. Bye.